There are 6 kingdoms when we're classifying organisms. The first is archaeobacteria, and these are prokaryotes that are unicellular and have a cell wall that's composed of lipids. And these are our extremophiles. So these are bacteria, or ancient bacteria, that live in extreme conditions, so really cold environments or very hot environments, like deep sea thermal vents. And these are our primitive types of bacteria. The second kingdom are eubacteria, and these are our true bacteria. Most of the diseases that we talk about or that are found in humans are caused by bacteria that are under this kingdom. These are also unicellular prokaryotes, but their cell wall is made up of something called peptidoglycan. And these bacteria have multiple uses. So we can use them in the production of food or medicine with like recombinant DNA. They can be used to recycle nutrients in various cycles that occur in nature. And they can be used to clean up chemical or oil spills. The third kingdom is Protista. And these are eukaryotes that do not have a cell wall. Most of these are going to be unicellular, but some may be multicellular. And these are organisms that live in aquatic environments. Some of these are going to be autotrophic and some will be heterotrophic. Autotrophic means that the organism can make its own food, and heterotrophic means that it has to eat other organisms and that it cannot make its own food. And these guys are going to have very specific adaptations. So for example, you're going to find what we call a contractile vacuole, which is used to pump water out if it starts swelling. It also has eye spots that can detect light. And there are 2 types of movement. One is called phototaxis. Taxis means movement, photo means light. So this is a response to light, which the eye spot can find or locate. And chemotaxis is responding to chemicals, and that will determine which way an organism moves. Protists are a group based on their locomotion mode, or how they move. So there are 3 main categories. Ciliates will use cilia, and an example of that would be a paramecium. Flagellates will use a flagella, and a euglena would be an example of a protist that uses a flagella. And rhizopods will use what we call pseudopods. Pseudo means false, so these are false feet, and an amoeba is an example of that. Also, when we're talking about protists, malaria is actually caused by a protist that is carried in the mosquito. The fourth kingdom are fungi, and these are heterotrophic eukaryotes. Heterotrophic meaning they cannot make their own food. They're decomposers, so they have to absorb nutrients from their environment. Some are going to be unicellular, but most of them are multicellular. And they have a cell wall that's made up of chitin, which is almost like a hard exoskeleton. And examples of organisms that fall under this category are yeasts, molds, mushrooms, ringworm, athlete's foot. All of those are examples of fungi. The fifth animal kingdom is Animalia, and these are eukaryotic organisms that do not have cell walls. They're heterotrophic, which means they need to eat other organisms to obtain their energy. And it can be broken down into 2 more groups. Invertebrates don't have a backbone, and vertebrates do have a backbone. And if they have a backbone, they are classified under a phylum Chordata, or chordates. And the last kingdom is the Plantae kingdom, which are going to be eukaryotic cells that have a cell wall made up of cellulose, so all of our plants here. These are all going to be autotrophs, which means they can make their own food, specifically through photosynthesis. And there are 2 types, vascular plants and non-vascular plants. Vascular plants are going to have vascular tissue, xylem and phloem. Xylem is how the plant moves water and nutrients up the plant, and phloem is how the plant will move glucose that's made in the leaves and move that down the plant. There are a couple of leaf adaptations to prevent water loss on various plants, like a cuticle. That's a waxy layer, and some plants are going to have a thicker or thinner waxy layer depending on where they're located. Some are going to have a needle-like leaves, and these are typically going to be gymnosperms. So gymnosperms are plants that use cones for reproduction, so like our pine trees. And you also have deciduous, which will actually drop their leaves in the winter, so they don't lose water. They also don't need the leaves because they don't need to do photosynthesis as much. And these are angiosperms, and these are plants that are going to have things like fruits or seeds. The non-vascular plants, they are going to transport nutrients by the process of osmosis and diffusion, so the movement of water and the movement of particles from high to low concentration. And these are typically going to grow in shady, damp areas. The one that you're probably most familiar with are mosses, but the other two are going to be what we call horn and liverworts.